If what you believe is real, and you really believe it, and you have a foundation for that belief, you should be able to defend it. I have no respect for somebody who says, well, I believe this and that, and you don't have anything to back it up. I'm not saying I believe in a flat earth. No. But there are some interesting points they make. Let me give you one. How many understand if the earth is a ball out here in space, then it has a curvature to it, right? It has a curvature. It's going to have a curvature. You're going to see a curvature. Now, what's going to be more apparent is the higher you get, the more you're going to be able to see the curvature, right? In other words, you have to get to a point in space where you're able to look down on the earth and see the curvature of the earth. And therefore, prove without a doubt that the earth is round. Now, this gets into the scientific geology or geography or whatever they are, who measure things like this. But did you know that in Lake Michigan, Chicago, Illinois sits on the western bank of Lake Michigan? How many of y'all know that? Chicago, Illinois, it's a good-sized town. At one time, Chicago was the second largest town in America. Chicago, Illinois. It sits right there. It butts right up against Lake Michigan. Right up against it, Lake Michigan. You can go 40 miles across the peninsular part of Michigan. I forget the name of the town over there. It's in another state. And you can get out there on a boat 40-something miles away from Chicago and look across Lake Michigan, and you can see the skyline of Chicago, Illinois. A meteorologist was talking about what he called what is that thing? A mirage. A mirage. The phenomenon of a mirage. And he showed a picture of the skyline of Chicago, Illinois. And he said, now this is a classic mirage. I said, what do you mean? And so the meteorologist went into this big long scientific thing about how, well, now we have these reflecting bands of the earth, and we have this I forget what all he called it, but he said the light that is reflected off of Chicago, Illinois is coming up and it's hitting a certain point here, and then it's bouncing back down again. And so people 40 miles away are able to see Chicago. You see, they can see Chicago because that the light is coming up and bouncing down, and they can see it. All right? That makes sense, doesn't it? That makes sense for the curvature of the earth. How many are following me here now? See, he was trying to explain to people, how can we 40 miles away see Chicago? And he was explaining to them how that the light was coming up and bouncing back down, and it was a mirage. You weren't really seeing Chicago by looking straight at it. You were seeing a reflection of Chicago through the clouds and the atmosphere and whatever else is up there. So these guys up there, they got in this boat. You've always got somebody like this. They hooked up their cameras. They had to wait for a certain day to come clear enough, because 40 miles is a long way to see, folks. And they got in their boat, and they hooked up their cameras, and they focused in on Chicago, and you could barely see it. Barely, because of the haze and the distance. But they kept their cameras trained on Chicago, Illinois, and they began to cross Lake Michigan. And do you know something? Nothing ever changed except Chicago got clearer. Now, if you're following me in all of this, here's the point. If the earth is curved, they should not have been able to see Chicago 40 miles away. Is that right? How many of you know? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. How many of you know how far you have to go before you lose sight of the horizon that you were looking at, say 10 miles away? See? Is that what it is? 12 miles? All right. So how far do you have to go? 12 miles. So you go 15 miles, you're starting to, depends on how tall it is, you're beginning to lose sight of the horizon, whatever you saw on the horizon. How many follow me on this now? See? And so by the time you're 25 or 30 or 40 miles away, it should be completely gone because of the curvature of the earth. Well, why did they see Chicago? Now, I'm not saying I believe it, but it makes me think. How did they see Chicago? Airline pilots, when they go up, flight level, let's say 30 or 35, in other words, 30,000 or 35,000 feet in the air. Let's say they're up there at 35,000 feet. As they rise in that aircraft, did you know what amazing thing happens? The horizon rises. Now, if the horizon was curved, would it rise or would it fall? So you believe in the flat earth? No, but I believe in listening to what they got to say. You see, here's their point. Their point is that God made the earth, and he made everything else as it relates to the earth. And the earth is the center of God's plan for man. And that it is here the issue of sin and salvation is settled. And that because of that, the earth is primary and is of primary importance in God's creation. In plainer words, you're not going to find anything out there that is nearly as important as what you've got going on here. Now, as far as that's concerned, I go with them 100%. Got no problem with that, do you? No, sir. The Bible said the earth is his footstool. No problem with that whatsoever. But here's what they say. They say a sinister element has entered in. What's the sinister element? The sinister element is this: that since the earth is not the center of the universe, or the center of the known creation as we understand it, therefore the earth is really not that important. That it's just a little speck out here in the end, and that what's really important is what's been going on up there, because what's going on up there has been coming down here to visit with us here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to read a little more about the flat earth. Here's why. I may never believe the earth is flat, but I may learn a lot of things from it that may help me understand my Bible in ways that I could never understand it before. You say, well, now, preacher, haven't you seen the photographs that they take when they send up these spacecraft and they look down and here's this beautiful globe hanging right out in the middle of the sky, right in space, this beautiful globe in space? How do you explain that? Well, here's the way they explain it. They got about 8 or 9 or 10 different globes. And they say, notice how it's changed down through the years. Here's the point that they make. It's a simple point. Do you know anybody that's ever been able to go into orbit and come back? Do you know what 35,000 feet is in the air? 5, 6, 5, 7. That's 7 miles almost. All right? How high do you have to get in the air before you see the curvature of the earth? In other words, if you're not part of the military, or you're not part of the government, or you're not part of NASA, you don't have the capability of going into orbit. You see what I'm saying? In other words, everything you know about space and about what this earth looks like from space, you got it from NASA. Horizon. You begin to lose it. So here's the question. Let's bring you back to square one. If you lose the horizon, let's say at 12 miles, whatever you could see at 10 miles by 12, it's going under. You can't see it, okay? How could you see Chicago, Illinois 40 miles away? And I'm not talking about just the tops of the skyscrapers. I'm talking about Chicago right there from the base up. Anybody got any ideas? Now, the meteorologist says that it was a mirage, but it was no mirage the day these guys got in this boat and sailed across the Lake Michigan and watched it as it went. Anybody got any idea? It's angry. That's aggravating, isn't it? You know what's aggravating about it? I'm not telling you that I believe in the flat earth, but what I am saying to you is we're presented with something that doesn't have an easy answer. And when you get something that doesn't have an easy answer, people get uncomfortable, don't they? They get uncomfortable.
And the flat earth and the blah, 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 all this stupid junk that's meaningless. You know, they want to come at you with us, and you're just like, why? Why does it matter? Who cares? No! But no, we're going to win the world to Christ by proving that it's flat. Anybody who thinks it's flat is a moron. Who cares?
Whoa, dude, what if it's flat, dude? Whoa.
And you know, you say, why do you even bring this up? It's so stupid. Because I get an email about it every day of my life.
Every day of my life.